Hey guys, welcome to the Welding Business Owners Podcast, where our podcasts are late but our bids are on time. I'm your host Kevin with JMW Fabrication. I am back. Boy, has it been a long time. As you guys know, I've taken some time off to restructure my business, but man, have I missed this. So let's get down to what's new. First of all, we are back to our weekly schedule. I have a bunch of guests lined up. We're recording podcasts now. I've got a roster of guys who I want to have on. And we are full steam ahead with this. So no more breaks. I apologize to you guys for that, but you know what? It's what I had to do in order to keep this thing going. What else is new? Some of you guys have asked about the Fabricator Olympics, and we are doing it again this year. September 28th here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania will be the second annual Fabricator Olympics. We've got new guys, we've got new competitions. We are really stepping it up this year, and I promise you it's going to be an even better time than it was last year. So mark your calendars, put your time off request in for September 28th. I'll have more info on that as it unfolds, so stay tuned. Now, a little something from you guys. I want to know what you guys want to hear about. I do this podcast for me and you guys, so I want to hear the topics you want to hear about. I want to hear about the people you want to hear. I want to hear about specific things. I want to hear about general things. I just want to hear from you guys. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Welding Business Owners Podcast. Let me know what you want to hear because I'm doing this for you guys. So now let's get to the podcast. In this episode series, I've got Matt Stout from Stout Customs. It's a little bit of a different format because I did this live with him at my shop. I've known Matt for a decade or over a decade. And he does some amazing work. The quality that him and his guys put out is impeccable. So I knew you guys wanted to hear about this. So we've got 5 full episodes of talking with Matt about how he runs his business, his team, how we started out. And on a side note, he's got these boonie bikes that are setting the standard in the industry for boonie bikes. We talk all about that in a later episode. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Check him out over on Instagram at Stout Customs. You can check out the Boonie Bike at Stout_Boonie. And you can follow him at Matt_Stunt. And without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy episode number 1 with Matt Stout. So I was part of the beginning journey of what you started out with Shop Full Throttle. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear how it's grown from a bunch of like 20-something-year-olds getting wasted in a garage building choppers to what you are doing now.
Yep. So I had the opportunity, as you know, my father had a trucking company, and I grew up wrenching on shit in his shop. He passed away when I was 17, and so we had to dissolve his trucking company because that's not what was in our future as a family. Yeah. My mother and my 2 sisters, and we dissolved the trucking company, or started to, and we were left with some square footage. And my mother had rented it to other businesses that used it, and I kept a small portion of it, as you know, and started fucking around. And I inherited a MIG welder and a chop saw. And you saw it with your own two eyes, and that was it. And a Craftsman drill press with a belt that slipped when you put anything in it bigger than a 3/8 drill bit. You know what I mean? So to me, that's as grassroots as it gets. Yeah. So I had the space, a couple tools, and the balls to do it. So then we started building choppers and pickup trucks, and then it became like this hangout in our late teens, early 20s, and then we quickly realized that wasn't a good avenue for the future. Mm-hmm. Having a club where kids could just show up and drink beer and smash bottles and those types of things. Although,
do burnouts?
We had some of the greatest memories. I mean, do we go down that? Do we get in the weeds on that for a brief minute for the audience?
Let's do it.
I mean, where do we start here? You can kick that one off.
I don't even remember how I got introduced with you guys. I really don't, because we didn't grow up together.
No,
I think
it was mutual friends and work and
I don't even remember how it got started.
The whole Bucks County redneck, like the little
that little crew,
diesel
that
dick
club,
dick swinging club that it was.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, this dude's cool and you're cool, and we should just do burnouts and cause mayhem together.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because there were, and I'm saying this for the audience because we didn't do it. We did no hard drugs. It was no more than like a handful of beers a night. Sure, there were some nights that we had puked drunk, and that was cool at the time. But we were. It was mostly passion that we were into. We were into getting in there, getting our hands dirty, and getting it done. Now, whether that was a lawnmower or a Cummins diesel or a motorcycle, it was always game on.
It was cool to see the few guys who had like real talent, like you and I and a couple other guys. Even though it was a hangout spot and we kind of just like partied there, like we were building legit motorcycles for the road. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there was like our brains worked differently than everybody else's there.
With no tools. That was the big thing.
And it was laying stuff out on unflat tables.
Yeah.
And trying to make it. I remember when you built that steering neck jig for for building frames, and that was like the most high tech thing that we had. Like
we sent 3 or 4 bikes from scratch down the road without a frame jig.
Yeah.
On a sheet metal, like on a 14 gauge sheet metal table.
Yeah.
There was a few guys who, you and I especially, who vibrated on those levels.
Yeah.
And the other people were sort of just there to hang out.
Sure.
And
like turn wrenches, but not like they didn't have their minds didn't work the way that ours did as far as like the geometry and how things work together.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what I remember of the whole thing.
No, and that's still what we experience in the world.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a whole breed of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's guys who can fabricate and they're mechanically inclined. And then there's just people who get it. People who get
there
it.
There is like, that is like the next little, the really, really
the
small
1%
chart
of
on
it.
top of the chart of fabricate. Yeah.
Where they get it. And it's funny because the guys who get it have their own businesses. They start their own thing. They rarely ever work for somebody else. And if you find them, you better keep them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, there's guys who are close. And I hate for it to sound like, like we're trying to talk ourselves up. But when you find somebody who operates on the same wavelength of brain power that you do, you're like, oh, there's something different with him.
Yeah.
There's something different with that guy. He gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. From the problem solving to the sensitivity to all that, that's really, really deep in the nitty gritty of what it takes to create things and really make them work.
Yeah. So where to go after you decided that the place should be less of a hangout and more
be a workshop
and like actually like we have to pay some bills here.
So that was a really long, painful, slow transition. I started fabricating because my friends told me that I was good at welding when we were building race mowers, in this small bit of square footage with the very minimal tools that I had inherited. And, oh, Matt, you're really good at welding, I'm like, yeah, fucking right I am. Yep, you know that. Yep. So then I was ready to weld everything at that point. But, they were wrong and so was I, but I was willing to learn. So then I started dabbling in small fabrication jobs, handrails, repairs that I probably had no business doing, but we did and did good work. And this was like 2009, 2010.
Okay.
I think I met you around 2011, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I moved back from the islands in 2011.
Okay.
So I
met you in like 11 or 12.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
9, 10, 11, 12 was me dabbling in fabrication and having the coolest hangout around or at least what we thought was the coolest hangout.
It was. You can brag on it. Right. It was.
Yeah, and then that transition was really slow. I had started to acquire some equipment. I remember buying my first milling machine off of my neighbor, and I drove a forklift down the road, down 611, to go pick it up and put a flag on the back and just drove it up and pulled it into the shop, placed it there, and didn't wire it for an entire year. It was 3-phase. It weighed about 1,000 pounds. It was an old English mill. It wasn't a Bridgeport, but it was an old CVA, I think is the brand. And they were made in England between the 30s and the 50s. Bought the thing. It was 3-phase. I didn't have a 3-phase converter. I didn't know how to hook up a 3-phase converter. And it sat there for a year until I decided that I was going to get a 3-phase converter and hook it up. And I'm like, why didn't I hook this up sooner? I can drill a 3/4 inch hole on this machine. Like, forget everything else that I can do with it.
Yeah.
I can actually drill a good hole. So I started to acquire some equipment. We had that mill. I wanted a tube bender in the worst way because I wanted to be a bike builder. So now we're 2012, 2013. Started getting a little bit more into the fabrication thing. Still had a full-time job. Yeah, I worked for an online retailer.
I remember when I found out what you actually did, I was like, you're lying.
Yeah, I got offered this job for an online retailer that sold vitamins and supplements, and the guy recognized the work ethic that I had and the creativity that I could bring to their marketing department. And I was head of customer service. I was head of marketing. I wore almost every hat that company had until I, stepped away.
Yeah.
When the fabrication business finally took off.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a very generous salary, and I'm grateful for all the hours that I was able to work at that company and make fair compensation, and quite literally pour it into my shop. I wanted a shop so bad that I worked 50 hours a week at the vitamin place behind a computer, producing dollars and cents, so I could pay the rent at the metal shop, because, my mother owned the facility. And in the very, very beginning, she was like, yeah, you can fuck around in this little spot. And then we quickly was like, okay, these people are paying this amount per square foot, and I expect you to do the same. And that was always the way it went over there.
Yeah.
So I was literally working full-time to pay the rent on my shop just because I wanted a shop, and I wanted tools, and I wanted to create things, and then started doing, handrails and trailer repair. And we never really had a niche. We never really had, these are the guys you're going to go to for staircases, and that's the guy used for spiral staircases. That's the guy used for precision sheet metal. We were none of that. We were just, at the time, because I was the only one invested in the fabrication end of it, I was doing whatever I was capable of doing with the basic tools that I had. So then slowly started to get more equipment. I had hired some helpers there, and then it was still a little bit of a hangout. That was when it really got frustrating. 2013, 14. I had kids coming in after school. They were sweeping up. They were grinding stuff. Some of the kids could MIG weld. We would blast together a handrail, and it was all nights and weekends because I had a full-time job, because I was trying to fund this whole dream. So then we get into 2015, 2016, where, I had stepped away from the full-time job. I had tapped into the architectural market by happenstance, met a dude who introduced me to the world of architectural metals, which is where I carved my niche, or where I took that vein of the fabrication world.
Yeah.
Which is, incredibly unique, in the same way that every vein, in the same way that precision sheet metal is unique, architectural metals is the same beast, and the same with spiral staircases. How many people can you call right now that can produce a spiral staircase?
3. And I'm one of them.
Right. Yeah.
and that's in a very large area.
Yeah. So yeah, we all have that vein, and you're like, so because we were creative, I keep saying we because I believe in the team aspect, but at the time it was me. It was It was I. At the time, it really, really was. Now we had some great camaraderie around the shop, but this was my baby that I was married to, and I was gonna live and die on this hill. You know what I mean? And we were all together pulling in the direction of whatever task at hand. At the time when it was a hangout, when it was I don't want to use the word club because that means other things that it wasn't. So there were times where we had a shop project and you came over and we had repaired a trailer together, or we built a motorcycle together. So that wasn't where the fabrication turned into my career. Mm-hmm. That's so then there was another transition. I'm kind of rambling, getting into the nitty-gritty about how this all shaped, because I've never explained this all out loud. Yeah. Or never explained this all to myself, really. So you're getting it uncut. Tapped into the world of architectural metals, and then quickly realized that we were a good fit for the demand of high-end architectural metals because we were adaptable. Mm. That is the main idea of this entire thing, of this entire timeline, is because we were adaptable. We could create whatever wild thing that this architect drew, that all the other fab shops are like, too busy, or that's not what we do, or we'll make it out of hot rolled steel, but if you want it out of bronze, go away type of thing. Yeah. So we were adaptable and sensitive to the demand, to the timeline, to the design, all of those things. We had to check all those boxes. And then next thing you know, some kid from Bucks County in the shop, that's sort of the diesel truck club we were drinking beer at and doing burnouts at. He got the New York City hotel project. And that is literally how that happened, because we were adaptable and sensitive to the demand.
Do you think you were just too naive to say no?
A lot of it may have been, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was, I'm the metal guy. What do you mean I can't clad a bronze cabinet with metal? I'm the metal guy. They came to me because I'm the guy. Fish on. I got fish on. I got to keep them. Yeah, you can't say no. Yeah. So I found myself way deep in those trenches. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do?
Figure it out.
I have to make bronze cabinet doors next week. And you're like, I don't know. And I had a floppy brake that I bought off of you out of the scrapyard.
I remember that thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not bending cabinet doors on this thing. Yeah, the old Chicago clunk, clunk,
But you did.
Do this. Started to, did a couple bends and maybe I should call someone. All right. Now go build a relationship at a real sheet metal vendor. Mm-hmm. You walk in there and then they're like, really? Do you even know what you're doing? And I'm like, do you want me to answer that? We're going to pull it off. That became our niche. And then that's where we aimed to accommodate for these clients with these really, really unique projects. So our niche is architectural metals for the hospitality industry. We are part of the finish and millwork package most of the time, but we specialize in high-end architectural metals for specifically bars, restaurants, and hotels. Mm. So when you walk into the latest, trendiest club, restaurant, bar, they have that hanging shelving that surrounds the bar and it's curved and it's got LED lights in it. We build that stuff.
That's awesome.
And it's pretty awesome once you get through all the emails and all the stuff, and you get to the fabrication bench, and it's your time to shine, and it's a 1/16 of an inch off, and you're afraid that the glass isn't gonna fit. Then it's like, okay, well, you gotta understand we have tolerances in here, and we have, the glass is already ordered. So that's where the adaptability comes in.
Yeah.
And the sensitivity. And now we have real equipment. We have real tools. I started to take over more square footage of the facility. Now we have 5,000 square feet. We have, when I say real equipment, like 3 years ago, we bought a water jet. We started with a rinky-dink, the most rinky-dink plasma torch that you could imagine. We thought we were going to set the world on fire. And
didn't we all?
yeah. So, but now we have a water jet. I just got a CNC 175-ton, 12-foot AccuPress that I don't know how to run yet. Literally just moved that into the building. So we've transitioned into a real fab shop. So now we can talk about how fucked up our niche is.
Let me hear that.
Okay.
I want to hear that.
So when someone calls you and says, "Hey, can you build this hanging shelf?" Yeah, why not? Shelf, some legs, screw it to the ceiling, hanging shelf. I tell people that they sell the same shit that we build at IKEA for $150, but an architect didn't draw it. And that's a huge diss to our work. But what we do is we take someone's design, and now, so you have to understand when there's a billionaire who decides he's going to open a restaurant in Manhattan, he knows it's going to cost him $10 million. He goes on Google or calls his other billionaire buddy and says, "Who's the best architect in the United States?" And they go, "Oh, this guy." All right, so this guy goes and he draws what's going to be the most beautiful restaurant in Manhattan. So now the billionaire is like, "Yeah, I'm building a restaurant. Here we go." So the architect draws the most beautiful restaurant in Manhattan, and it's going to cost him $5 million. Mm-hmm. So then they go, "We're going to send this out to bid now." The general contractors are going to bid on that, and they're going to say, "Yeah, we can do the job." So from there, it goes out to people like myself. So the general contractors will say, "Matt, do you want to bid on this vestibule?" "Sure." So I get a set of drawings that looks like your daughter drew them. Mm-hmm. I want it to have windows, and I want them to be, I want 3 windows in a row. Okay. So what do you want to make the windows out of? Oh, metal. Okay. So you want metal framed windows. And this is it's all in blueprints that just have terrible details, right? So
or none.
These are what's, yeah.
It's kind of up for interpretation. Because they didn't think that far into the project. And they're like, "This is my idea. Mm-hmm. I don't want to tell you, this has to be stainless and has to be bent over and you need this kind of radius because it accepts into this kind of metal." Mm-hmm. They don't call all that out. And it's not their job to. Yeah. Right? So I'm ranting a little bit about the challenges, but this is actually what their job is to make things look pretty in elevation. Yeah. So when I walk in off the street and I'm looking at the vestibule, I want to see 3 windows wide and 4 windows high. And I want them all to be metal frames, and I want them to be black. And that's all the information that you're given. Mm-hmm. And I want them to be as small as they can possibly be. And maybe I'll give you a little clue, and I'm going to say that the window frames are 1 inch wide when you're looking at them. If you're really, really lucky, they will give you like a plan section, and it'll say that they want it to be rectangular. Who said that those window frames that we were looking at in elevation were round or square? No one said this, right? So if you're really lucky, you'll get a plan section, then you'll get a rectangle, and you'll see, okay, it's 1x2 rectangular tube. And then we have to, so how's the glass get held in there? Magic? Most of the time, yes, magic. So when these things come across our desk, this is what we see. Yeah. "Hey, Kevin, price this." You're like, "So I need more info. What do you want me to price?" You need to do the 1 inch and the windows. And you're like, "Are you crazy? Like, what is this, just going to levitate?" And they're like, No. Figure on like some clampy clamps to hold the glassy glass." And you're like, "Are you out of your mind?" Some clampy clamps to hold the glassy glass. And like, they're like, are you out of your mind?" Yeah. Well, no. You're the metal guy. Figure it out. You're the metal guy. Figure it out. So now we have to give them a price on how much it's going to cost to make the clampy clamps for the glassy glass and the metal and the... Now, you understand, I'm not fabricating yet.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm just at the desk beating my head against the wall, sending emails back.
You don't even have a job yet.
Right, yeah. So we're like, fine, $2,000 for this, Okay, you got the job. So we need to see your shop drawing. How are you going to build this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. You're the architect. I thought you were going to. No. You see, you got it all wrong, kid. And these are the things that I learned as an idiot, as a kid who wanted to fabricate, right? So I'm here with a arguably decent-sized set of balls. And I'm rolling up just like, I'm just here to build the fucking thing, And they're like, well, no, how are you going to build it? And, well, so you need to submit a shop drawing. Oh, well, what the hell is that? You could Google shop drawing. Okay, so it looks like so what I need to do is CAD this thing.
Yeah.
Take their design elements. Take everything they've given me, which is 1 inch wide, clampy clamps, glassy glass. Turn it into something that we can create. That sounds easy. Okay, but what if they get it and they don't like it? So then you go round with them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we don't like it. We wanted this and that. And so then after 2 to 3 revisions, if you're lucky, you'll get approval on the drawings. But then we need to get into finishes. So what color do you want it? Oh, normally we just spray paint this stuff black. Or do you want it powder coated? Oh, no. We were thinking more of like, like a natural patina, like a blackened steel. Okay. Yeah, we could do that, I guess. Sure. What kind? Like, well, they show you like a picture. And you're like, all right. So you Google blackened steel. Okay. You spray the shit on, it turns this weird gray, bluish. Oh, it's pretty cool. Maybe that's what they want. Here you go. That's what, I think. Oh, we don't like this one. All right, so let's do it again. So then now you've created what you need to produce on every square inch of your sculpture, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
On a 4x4 piece of steel. And they take one and I take one. So that I can match it against the steel that we're creating and they can hold it against my work on the fucking job site and make sure it's the same gosh darn color every square inch. Okay. And people think I'm just a welder.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the nitty gritty of our niche. Mm-hmm. And that is what that was the vein that we took, and it seemed to be a good fit for me when I was 24 years old and this opportunity presented itself. The reason being is our adaptability, our awareness, sensibility, and the creativity. Those were like the things that allowed us to really catapult in that direction. Mm-hmm. And that was, just finding that there was a need and being able to accommodate. And that's how we ended up there. Now, I love certain parts of it, so I kind of bitched a little bit about how challenging it can be. And those are just the things that I learned about what I had to do to get the work. I wanted to be a metal fabricator. Yeah. So that was just like, okay, this is just what we have to do to get this job. Now I understand there's an entire culture.
World behind
There's a
it,
whole world of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something you'll just find on Google. You know what I mean? This is like this whole world, and I kind of found myself there saying, who are my people? You know what I mean? Like, I was there. I was just the redneck with the boots on the ground. Yeah. And, I'm standing there with a bunch of furniture designers and architects and
soft hands.
Yeah. I mean, so, and with all due respect, they're not my people. Mm-hmm. But I'm there to give them something something that fuels their passion. Yeah. So they get off on drawing this stuff and seeing this finished work in these spaces. I get off making the sparks. And what I've figured out is that a lot of these people can't communicate with a metal shop. We want this. We don't really know what we want. Can you help us? Yes, I can. We want it to have glass in it. I don't know. I don't even know where to buy glass. Click. Glass? No problem. Mm-hmm. Of course. We make things with glass in them all the time. Would you like us to work with your glass vendor, or do you want us to provide the glass? So those are the types of answers to the questions that I was getting that I started to,
realize that's how you answer them.
Yeah. And that is a trade all in itself.
Customer service.
Yeah.
Customer service probably isn't the whole encompassing phrase for that either.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to learn an entire new, almost trade in order to deal with the people that you deal with. You know what I mean? Because, like, we do work in New York, too. Like, they are, we call them particular people, are very tough to deal with. And you have to learn how to phrase things and talk to them. And once you understand and you learn, okay, my job is to hold their hand. My job is to hold their hand and take what they want in their head and make it feasible for me to be able to fabricate in a profitable, time constraint manner, that to give them what they want, to give them a good product, and to do it within the price that the ballpark price that I gave them, and have them be very happy with it at the end. That's really tough.
You've said the main idea, right? So that's the thing. And now it gets even more wild when you get different layers of people within that food chain. So now you're dealing with someone's, maybe you're dealing with the contractor, maybe you're dealing with the client direct. But now when you start to deal with the assistant, then it gets off the rails. So they'll say, well, I don't know if so-and-so wants, that's not what they said. They said, they said this color, or they said they wanted a radius on that corner. Why can't we have a radius on that corner? And then it's like, so you're 10 emails deep and there's no like undoing that thing. And for some reason it becomes this, well, you said this, but we didn't want the radius on that corner. And you were like, well, we have to have a radius on the corner of 1x2 rectangular steel tubing. It has a radius on the corner. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you said that we could do it without the radius. Yeah, in aluminum, but we're not doing aluminum now. But that's what you said.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago. But now.
Yep.
And you're like.
The correspondence.
Can we just ask the guy who really wants this and explain to him how is that so difficult? And I'm probably not doing a good job of painting the picture on how that gets so difficult.
The people who have experienced it know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So then running something back up the flagpole is nearly impossible.
I know.
Because everybody's covering their ass. So now the assistant doesn't want to look like an idiot. So they're not giving you an inch.
Yeah.
They're just like, not going there. So you finally nudge on them enough to get the assistant's assistant to do it. And then they're like, no fucking way am I going to the big boss lady about this one. Yeah. And then it's just, and who takes the bullet? Do you just finally bite the bullet and say, it's only $600 more to buy the aluminum. I'll just do it so we can get the effing job done. Sometimes that's what happens. You know? The thing would have been beautiful out of steel square tube, powder coated matte black. It would have been fine. It may have looked better, but you didn't get the right guy on the phone to okay it.
So that's it for episode number 1 with Matt from Stout Customs. I hope you guys really enjoyed our talk. Stay tuned next week for episode number 2, where we dive more into his business and what he does. You can find him online at Stout Customs on Instagram. You can find him personally at Matt_Stunt. And you can find Stout Boonies at Stout_Boonies. You can find the podcast at Welding Business Owners Podcast on Instagram. I appreciate all your messages, guys, on there. It does take me a little bit of time to get back to all you guys, but I appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram at JMW Fabrication. And if you guys like this podcast, go into your podcast player and give me a 5-star review. It really helps other people see us. Share us on Instagram. Share us all around where you can. I appreciate you guys. And until next week, get out there, get it done, and get it invoiced.